So, after quite a bit of time spent speculating and just wondering what's going to come in Marathon Season 2, the community finally has some answers from Bungie just before the season comes out. I, of course, have some opinions on the things that are coming out soon. I think mostly positive ones. But before I get into literally anything I want to talk about in this video, I do want to say, real quick, that if you are somebody who hasn't played Marathon for whatever reason, and you're clicking on this video because you're just a little curious about what's coming in Season 2, a really big thing that's happening, the game is going to be free for the entire first week of the season. So starting June 2nd and ending on June 9th, you can just hop in and try it for yourself. I think the game is great, and I think it's worth doing if you just want to save the $40 but still want to try the game. Even though you won't get to play Cryo Archive, there's still quite a lot of content to sink your teeth into, so I would definitely be giving that a try. Anyway, moving on to definitely the biggest piece of content that we're getting in Season 2, Night March. I'm gonna be completely honest, when they announced Season 2 way early on, I think around when the game came out, I was pretty speculative of just getting Dire Marsh at night, but they have released 16 minutes of gameplay footage just publicly available for anyone to use as B-roll, and it seems like they really went all out for Night March, actually. I think one of the best parts about this map is instead of it just being kind of like Outpost, where Outpost is a nighttime map as well, but it's not like super dark or anything. You can still see even in the rooms that don't have any lights or anything. You can see on certain parts of this map, most notably AI Uplink's basement and maintenance, it is completely pitch black. Now, luckily they've made it so all weapons on Night March are going to have flashlights, so there won't ever really be an issue of feeling like, oh, I just don't get to play Night March right now because I don't have a flashlight mod to put on one of my weapons. They've also spiced up the map quite a decent bit. The anomaly feels like it's a much more active part of the gameplay rather than just being a big wall that makes creepy noises. There's these weird anomaly crystal enemies. That's the only way I can describe them. The sound effects around the anomaly are a lot more intense, and you can hear character voice lines repeating and things like that, which I feel like you already could in normal Dire March, but in the stock footage, when they show a fight near the anomaly, it's definitely a lot more disorienting than I remember. They've also added a sort of Cryo Archive security clearance system to Night March. As you're playing through the map and you're killing UESC, you'll get these encryption certificates. You'll end up using these to hack into several network towers around the map to get loot. You need them to activate exfils, and they can be used to access the upper part of Complex that is completely locked off in normal Dire March. It does seem like Upper Complex is kind of a pinwheel ship situation as well, where that's where some of the best loot you can get your hands on outside of Cryo Archive is going to be. I'm really glad to see that kind of gameplay come to other maps. I think it's where Marathon is at its strongest right now, is this feeling of kind of working through the map and progressing in ways other than just killing people. There's also, you know, zombies. Weird mutated zombies with completely destroyed bodies, a freakish amount of arms. They just really look and sound completely alien. However, I'm sure they're not a big deal. Sounds like we have absolutely nothing to worry about with the mutant zombies running around everywhere now. All in all, Night March looks really, really cool. I'm really excited to get into it. And it also seems like Night March is going to be complemented very well by a lot of the new things that they're adding. One of the biggest ones is a form of night vision for us to use on Night March. Even though we already have thermals, and they could have just made it so you want to use thermals on Night March, Bungie has actually gone a really unique route of using LiDAR systems as your form of night vision. Visually, it looks really cool, and I think it's not as effective as thermals, but finds a pretty healthy balance with being able to see other people in the dark and not just seeing them as if it's daytime through a scope. There's also flares. I believe there's two different colors, a green flare and a red flare. Flares seem like a pretty good alternative if you don't have LiDAR. However, I think you would always prefer thermals or LiDAR over flares. I mean, ideally, you want to have as little as possible of a chance of being seen if you're just camping somebody in the dark. There's also the new character, Sentinel. He's mainly based around setting traps and things like that, and his ult is a trophy system, which is really greatly appreciated. However, he also has some pretty useful intel gathering stuff. I mean, not only can you just set traps around wherever you want, purely with the intent of just having them tell you when somebody's there if they run into one. The character also has a radar ability, which I think is a more unique way of doing something like a recon ult. Recon could have her own whole video about how stupid overpowered her ult is right now, and how I think design-wise it's a little boring compared to the other options that we have, like pickpocket drones and now the radar and Sentinel. But I don't really think it's worth getting into all that right now. I really like this radar and Sentinel. I think it's really cool. I hope more characters get things like that in the future. Gathering intel is always going to be important in a game like Marathon, so the more characters that have some way of gathering intel like this, the better in my opinion. It could get pretty oversaturated in the future, but right now, I think it's pretty cool that we have 3 characters that are good at gathering intel. Even if one of them, it's the entire character and is obviously the best right now. So, moving on from the new character and the new map, one of the big new features in Season 2 that doesn't have anything to do with the game world itself is the cradle. Now, I honestly thought the cradle would be something a bit more interesting just based off the name and how little we knew about it before. But it is just a bit of extra stat customization that you can do outside of implants and things like that. You can convert items that you have in your vault that you maybe don't want into cradle XP to level up your cradle and put points into 6 different stat bundles that they have. 5 of them give 2 different stats, resistance gives 3. They've also moved some of the nodes that were previously in the faction trees into the cradle. So some of those upgrades like increased heat regeneration, more knife damage and the other knife related abilities, your ability recharge rates, those have been moved into the cradle and out of the faction trees. While I do think that the cradle is a cool and unique thing, I am a little worried about bloat. Something games like to do a lot nowadays is have a bunch of different systems for a bunch of different things, and everything is in all these different menus, and they have all these different crazy names and thematically are supposed to be their own thing. And while I don't hate the concept of the cradle, it just seems like it's moving some stuff out of the faction trees into its own separate menu for no reason. Sure, it is a bit more obvious and in your face. Like, instead of just finding all the nodes in the faction trees, you go to the cradle and it's like, oh, this is the stat screen. But it just doesn't seem that necessary to me. I trust Bungie on this one, though, and I don't think we've gotten to the point yet where there's too many menus in Marathon and we have system bloat or anything like that. They also talked in the Developer Insights video a lot about speeding up faction progression, which might be why they felt the need to move some of this stuff away from the cradle, just so you can't get too powerful too fast. I am curious to see if there will be new nodes in the faction trees to replace these ones that are being moved to the cradle, or if the trees will just be smaller. I don't think they've said anything on that, and it might just be something that we find out when we log in on June 2nd. And the last thing that I wanted to cover is the 2 new guns that they're adding, and I saved this for a later part in the video because I don't feel great about one of them. I'll start off with the D54 battle pistol. I think this weapon's pretty cool. I don't know how it's going to feel in-game. I feel like the pistols in Marathon don't feel amazing to shoot, at least not on keyboard and mouse. But this gun might be helped a bit by being a 3-burst, and it seems like in the footage that they showed, it might be pretty powerful. I kinda doubt that this weapon is gonna, like, break the sandbox or anything, or be a huge game changer, but the other weapon they're adding, I am a little more worried about. They are adding a new SMG called the KKB-9SD. This gun inherently has a suppressor, which is fine. I guess the name of it is a reference to a gun from the old Marathon games, which is pretty cool to see. But the thing that scares me about this gun is it is a 1200 RPM SMG. That is fast. That's like a laser. They do say in the article that they posted that this gun is going to be a good counter to shotgun rushing, which I think is absolutely true. Something that I don't really think anybody's thinking about is the SMG rushing that's probably going to come from this. It's a fine line they're walking here. This thing shoots at 1200 RPM. If it does too much damage, it is going to nuke the sandbox. It will be the only thing that people use. They've also today released some of the patch notes for sandbox tuning that they're going to be doing in Season 2. And this gun now has an even better chance of being absolutely ridiculously busted because the Mizraya just got nerfed. Granted, I think the Mizraya nerfs are very appropriate, and the gun had it coming. I mean, it was ridiculously overpowered. Most of these nerfs come to fire rate, so the gun will still hit like a truck. It just won't completely mow people down, especially with the gold mod, which is getting a 60 RPM reduction. But now there's going to be a fancy 1200 RPM SMG for you to use instead. I could very well just be worried over nothing, but Marathon is very close quarters heavy right now, and I think it's probably going to stay that way for a while. I mean, it's just really effective to fight right up in people's faces. And I don't want the game to feel so one-dimensional. I would like for there to be a wide variety of things that are useful at different ranges instead of the goal just always being, let's get in as fast as we possibly can, get right in their face, and nuke them. There obviously needs to be good close quarters options, but man, it's scary. It's getting scary. Despite my complaining about the new SMG, I mean, I'm excited to use it. It's gonna feel good to mow people down if it does. I just don't want the game to feel stale. I think Season 1 definitely got a little stale, where I was mainly playing Outpost and Cry Archive because that's where all the best loot everywhere is, but I wanted to be playing Perimeter and Dire Marsh because I was tired of every engagement coming down to who hits both of their waster shots, or who has a slick mag on their Mizraya and who doesn't. And while, yes, in today's sandbox tuning notes, Bungie did show that they are doing things to nerf the Mizraya. It doesn't have slick mag anymore. Its gold mod shoots way slower now. And the Waster had its power pulled back pretty heavily, and I think is in a more appropriate spot in the sandbox. But now we're getting a 1200 RPM SMG. That is pretty much everything I wanted to talk about in this video. I will link the Bungie article and the Developer Insights video, because there is some information I'm leaving out that I do feel like is pretty cool and pretty important. Decent amount of quality of life stuff, some performance upgrades, things like that. I will see you guys later. I'm going to go think about how Destiny is dying because they just released a TWAB. I probably will make a video on that at some point. But I'm super lazy, and I didn't really feel like there was a ton of stuff for me to be insanely excited about with the last update until they started announcing things like Override coming back, and maybe we get Warmind cells. So if I do make a Destiny video, it'll probably be right before the update comes out, maybe even after. Anyway, that is going to be all from me for now. I encourage you to comment and just talk about whatever you want to. If you think the map is going to suck, tell me you think the map is going to suck. I might reply to you and tell you I don't think the map's going to suck. And it will be a very good and very fun engagement that will be very productive for the both of us. Goodbye.